The market is about 4 different generations that speak 4 different languages, actually probably about 40 different languages. But here's the thing, if you're talking to my mom and dad, they want you to sit down, they want you to show them why.
So I figured out how I could take pictures of it and create a graphic version of it. And then we could make copies of it.
It's funny, on the radiation kit, but the quote on the outside says, and the moon said to me, my darling, you do not have to be whole in order to shine. And I still get a little weepy hearing, you're going through the worst time that you possibly can be going through. You like your whole self, but man, you can still find shine. And we want to give women to be able to do that.
And hopefully people get to hear that. Up second will be Keith Kachuk. That Brett Hull guy you talked about, he's going to be on at some point. He's promised me.
And then you decided to start your own company?
¿Cómo llegaste aquí?
Yeah, we still work for different companies for many years. And I take the decision like, why I'm not working for my own.
And we've been texting back and forth, FaceTiming, showing different materials and stones with her vision in mind.
To get their support and their blessing, I mean, my company helped me set up our accounts, our business accounts, and get registered with the state. One of the owners actually took that time to do that for me because he's seen the passion that we had in it.
It's almost like he can see behind the walls, and before he leaves, he's like, okay, but you need this A, B, and C, and he's going to be honest and upfront and tell you kind of the ugly that may be there, right? To make sure that you can get what you are wanting and asking, and he can pull that off for you. So.
And I was brought up, when you did a job, you did it to the best of your ability and with the intention that you weren't going to have to come back to fix something.
Put it out there because, hey, work hard, help people. She hasn't made a ton of money. She's done okay, but she's...
And then those proceeds, some of them will go to scholarship needs for some of our students, and then other big ticket items.
Young guy like this who's going at it. I wish I'd have started doing following my passion when I was 29, right?
I am working really hard and giving her something where she don't have to work as hard as I do, okay? And from that, take it and run with it. And that's where she's here.
Since the 1978 is the cutoff date for it, really went out in the 60s when latex paint came in, but it's still there under many layers of paint.
When he decided to get married, he's like, hey, we got to drive to Peebly for my wedding. I'm like, I don't want to be driving to Peebly. So that's how we got talking about doing a wedding venue. So we decided that last November. In February we started it, and we were able to get done for it. And November 23rd was your wedding?
Yep. And we got finished November 23rd.
November 23rd. When was the wedding? Just in time?
My mom calls, and I talked to her for the very first time. And her first words to me were these: David, it's your mother. I love you so much, and I've been looking for you your entire life. And in that instant, that empty cavern was filled. Who are you? And what are you doing here? The answer to that question is the key to leveling up. Thank you so much for listening.
Well, give it up for Mr. David McCoy.
Please don't make eye contact. It literally is that way.
Do not make eye contact.
Don't make eye contact. The stress levels with the younger generations, and no disrespect to them, we're just identifying things. It's like, who in the heck would want to sit at a kitchen table for 3 hours and talk about windows?
Right.
Well, our grandparents did.
Yeah.
Okay? But nowadays, it's like the kids are under so much anxiety, and they've got money to spend. And they need help with things. But it really is. Do you understand their problem?
It's the homeowner trying to cut corners and trying to talk the contractor into taking those shortcuts. It could be very costly for the homeowner.
Actually, ultimately, always comes. I love these business owners generally do a great job, or else they don't last. So look how long they've been around. Scott's been around for a long time. But when they're saying, "Can you give me a deal here? Can you cut corners there?" If you really are going to force me to, you can't pay for this otherwise. Well, let's just scale it down a little bit rather than decrease the value or the quality, right?
Right.
But if they do that, they're hurting themselves. They're not really getting cost savings. They're going to save a few bucks, but they're getting less, and they might be getting a lot less because it was an important thing that you shouldn't have cut, and now the thing crashes in 3 years instead of 30.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can't expect to do half the work and still be successful.
Yep. Well,
because you're going to have problems, and then nobody's going to be happy, and you're not going to be happy. So it's just, let's just be happy.
Do it right. Do it right the first time, because when you have to redo it, now you just cost yourself double. To really have something going, because it can't be. It's just something you can't just wake up one day and go, oh, I'm going to do an Airbnb. I think I got this, right? Well, whenever you
well, having kind of a background in all the different categories between working retail, service industry, you know, coming from a father who was very experienced in the construction world, you know, contracting world, I kind of learned from a little bit of everything. Interior design, fashion merchandise, yeah, you know, I always wanted to be a buyer, so maybe I found a new niche.
Okay. Well, I agree with you that you've done a great job and you know what you're doing, and it's obvious that, you know, not everybody can wake up one day and say, oh yeah, I want to start an ARB and I want to start off with 95 or 89 straight 5-star reviews. Yeah. But you managed to do it, so proud of you for that. My video, here's our stack of hats, and I got one more here for one lucky guest who's going to come and be on our show. You can do that, and we'd love to have you be a guest, and we'll give you a hat for being a guest on our show and share with us, the community, what you do. So I want to talk a little bit more about hammer it in, and then it falls apart an hour later, right? Because you didn't do it right to begin with. So we kind of set our show up that way. And then if we do have an issue, if we've got time, there's just so many shows. This particular show was not like, oh my gosh, it's got to be absolutely perfect. I need something out there right away because she just joined the team and the audio wasn't perfect. I might mix it a little bit, but it sounded actually okay. Now, I shot that earlier today. Now the audio sounds back to perfect, pretty close. So many of us are not motivated by money. You're like, you gotta get paid, you gotta pay the bills, but it just feels good to help people and get a good product. You're helping people with their most valuable asset, by far.
Absolutely.
For like 97% of the population, maybe more than that. If you have a nice house, you probably have a nice roof.
Yeah, you gotta have a nice roof if you're gonna have a nice house, because without the roof, you're not gonna have a house.
Right. The roof is on. I can't say more than 8 seconds, everybody, or we get in trouble. But the roof is literally the most critical part. Foundation important too. I feel like that, Mrs. R. And I better do what's right. Better do something positive with this. Yes. You guys get to do that with what you're doing with helping businesses.
Absolutely.
If you're not doing something positive, it's got to just not be good work. It's got to be positive.
And we get to see it happen. We're there. We see it happen.
Okay.
So that's like he said, when it's done, the feeling of the accomplishment of it, and then knowing it's right, and then usually that's contagious. Everybody has that feeling, and it really makes a difference.
Well, yeah, that contagious. I like that word. Right. You want to pass on something that spreads everywhere in a positive way. We talk about getting a cough or something, but bottom line, yeah, you're doing the things that make an impact. That's contagious to your vendors, to your contractors.
Absolutely.
And that goes positive. And we're getting into another one. Tell me if this one makes sense to you.
It takes all of them to make us positive. It takes the vendors, it takes the applicators, it takes our office people. They've all got to have that, and they do.
I love it, man. These guys, this is why you hire people like you have.
Where Kobe Bryant was up on rape charges, where his wife had filed for divorce, where he was having an affair. But somehow, some way, he got this idea. Life is short. It's really short. And if you have children, they're probably the most important people in your lives. And because life is short, and he was leaving a legacy, he changed his legacy. He wasn't the guy who was out there cheating. He wasn't the guy who was in the media all about basketball. He became a family man. He changed his legacy. I do St. Louis marriage coaching. I've done this for over 20 years. I'm the only counselor in the region, maybe in the United States, that offers all their clients, all of them, 100% money-back guarantee on my services. And the reason I do that is I can give people their money back all day long. But life is short. What I can't give them back is their time. And so when they leave my office, they know that they're going to get a great deal of value every single time. That's what I do. The final point, frequently, it's in our pain that our purpose shows up. It's in the broken areas in our life. I shared with you that I was adopted. I had never met my biological parents, had looked for them my entire life. 3 months after my wife Kathy died, I received a phone call from my daughter. She says, "Dad, are you sitting down?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Dad, I talked to your mom today. We thought that she had died." I said, "What? You talked to my Dad? She wants to talk to you. She wants to meet you." I had 2 questions my entire life. My first question was this: why didn't she love me? And then my second question is, why hadn't she found me? I lived such a fairly high-profile life. Why hadn't she found me? So that night at 7 o'clock, it was during the Pittsburgh Steelers Sunday night football game, my mom calls and I talked to her for the very first time. And her first words to me were these: "David, it's your mother. I love you so much, and I've been looking for you your entire life." And in that instant, that empty cavern was filled. Who are you? And what are you doing here? The answer to that question is the key to leveling up. Thank you so much for listening.
Well, give it up for Mr. David Masoli. So the song I got for that one is "We Found Love," right? What more appropriate for, we'll start welling up here, but the fact is that we're all looking for somebody to have that partnership with for a lifetime, and that we can truly love and enjoy life together. And so, David, thank you so much. David was my first guest on the Your Little Castle TV show. And I called him, I said, "I want to start the show off with a real leader in our community." And I called him, he said, "Absolutely, let's do this." And we've been doing 54 weeks in a row now with that. So with that, our next speaker is going to be introduced by my good friend Steve Flowers. Can you tell everybody who's coming up here, Steve?
I don't need a microphone, do I?
I'm going to give you one. Here you go.
No, I don't need you. Oh, yeah, you need that. Can I just hold it like that?
There you go. Yep.
Okay. I don't know how he got roped into doing this, why he couldn't do it himself, but our next speaker is Carter, the Cardinal Cowboy. He's a good buddy of mine. I take a lot of razzing from people that we know because he's a unique gentleman. It takes a lot of guts to do what he does, but he's on a mission. And I tell people that we play ball with and everything, and that we work with, I said, you got to hear this guy's story. Because when you hear his story, you find out about what he is about, it all kind of makes a little bit more sense, which is, how he does the show, why he's gathered us all today. Is he a strange bird? Absolutely. We wouldn't have it any other way. He's got a great story. He's on a mission, and it's just not about getting more mortgage loans, right? It's about what we're all here for tonight, right?
You got it.
All right, Carter Rettwish.
So, I mean, I feel so blessed. I mean, I've got so many people in my life that have been so influential, and I've gone through so much, as we all do. I mean, a coma is just a crazy thing to go through. But the first one I've got to give a shout out to, and I didn't get to see my mother on Valentine's Day. I didn't tell her I was going to do this, but she's here, and I wouldn't have it any other way. She says, "Well, you called me and told me I had to be there." I said, "Absolutely." She is a speech teacher, a drama teacher. She has the building named after her now in Afton, the Afton Judy Rettwish Auditorium. She taught a well-known actor, semi-well-known actor by the name of John Goodman, if a lot of people are familiar. So now this may all make a little more sense because I kind of love that. But I went to hundreds of plays by now in my life, starting as a little kid. But Mom, I love the way, this is my Valentine's card for my mom that I'm going to give her. I'm reading it. I didn't tell her I was going to do this. I'm doing it anyway. Mom, I love the way that you do love. I grabbed the card. I'm like, this is perfect. I can't believe they wrote this for my mom. I see you and think, I want to be like that. So I try to practice love like you do, to make it real, to make it matter. When I get it right, I feel proud knowing that I got that from you. Happy Valentine's Day, Mom. Love your favorite son. And I can't lose that contest because I am her only son. So But my mom is here today, so that's just one of the people I wanted to give a shout out to. I'm going to try to, I'm going to forget somebody here, but Dawn, thanks for helping make this all happen. Lacan, thank you for just being a part of my life. I know you since college. Greg, my buddy, who I can count on anytime, say, come up, show up, I need you. Thank you for being here. Phil showing up. Charlie, one of our guests on our show. Dave for being on our show. So many people that have influenced my life and been so part of it. I tell you, I got one particular ounce of, a lot of inspiration from a guy who I asked him if he could come here tonight as a guest, because this guy's a pretty big deal. My long term is to try to get him to be one of our speakers because he's such a big contributor to our community. He's been doing something now, I think, for over 35, almost 40 years. But he'll tell you about it. I'm going to bring him up real quickly just to give a quick intro. But please give a warm welcome to my friend, Ron Beckley, the Towel Man. Come on up here, Ron. There's only a few legends. I was so fortunate that when I saw somebody said, Cowboy, you got all this, and I looked up, I'm like, yeah, I'm one out of 21 super fans. And I wasn't the top one. This guy was the number 2 on that list, behind a guy from New York, of all the top super fans in the world. And it's not just because he's a great fan, but because he does so much to influence the community. He's got a giant sign on the side of the Enterprise Center now. It's got to be 60 by 60. I saw it myself, and it's because he's such an impactful guy. So Ron, say something to everybody if you would real quickly. Because you got to use my mic. It's on right here.
If you want to reach the next level, find somebody who has tickets in the next level. It's much easier to watch the game. The speakers have been awesome. Great message, and the last speaker. Yes, we're all here for a purpose and a reason, and something as simple as what I'm doing has opened up so many doors. And I don't think I'm smart enough to think that was ever my idea, but it's opened up so many doors for me, and I really do. God sends all of these blessings down to you, and when you have a blessing, it's not a gift until you give it away. So it comes with the responsibility of sharing it, and you got to give to live.
There you go. Give it up for the Towel Man, Ron Beckley. Crazy quick story, all kinds of fun stuff. Ron and I both got invited to be at a charity event. We show up to charity events all the time together. We walk kids down the red carpet. I got invited to do that. We walk kids that have cancer and different. You want to talk about, one of the speeches I gave was an 8-minute speech, and I felt like that was enough for me, right? A lot of times it's tough to get me to do an 8-minute speech, but this kid, I literally had 27 surgeries. You want to talk about going through life. She had a metal leg. She showed it off. She wore a dress, but she said, "Hey, here's my metal leg." She had sarcoma. And Ron happened to be at that event with me, and we've been to that event a few different times now, and it's just a great organization. And then there was one this weekend, and both of us couldn't be there, but we both donated tickets to make it help another group do some ground stuff. So Ron does a ton of charity stuff in the community. It's a great thing he does. So thank you, Ron. Get it up. Give it one more time for Ron. The Towel Man. Okay, my time is up. Thank you, guys. No, all right. I want to talk a little bit about it. I talked to my director of communications, my longtime speech and drama teacher that I've had personally all my life, very fortunate. It's my mom, right? She's sitting over there and she says, "Here's what you need to talk about." Because I've got so much I want to share. I'm so fortunate. And we outlined it. Literally, I'm like, here's my list. Here's what I've got. But what should I talk about? And really, it's a matter of pretty much the theme of what we've had here tonight. And that is, we all get a very short, I love it when David said, we all have a very short time on this planet. What are you going to do? And my strategy is always, and I've been fortunate to have guidance from a couple, my mother and my father, college admissions counselor, all these scholarships. He got named after my mom. Like, what happened to me? All right, something. But I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to get there. I want to have the impact that my parents have had. And literally, it's a matter of, the more, it seems like life is a matter of the more people you help, the easier your life is. There's some people that like do the opposite of that. And then they wonder why their life is so difficult. And I'm like, because that's not quite the way this little system works. I don't know, you can, any religious perspective you want or however you want to go about it. Bottom line is, and I won't get into all that, I just get easy steps, help people, life is easier. Take advantage of people, life is going to be difficult. Not that complicated, but we know how many people don't get that message. Talked to my mom about it recently, and she's just like, there's so many people that don't have that. They're raised in a place where they're struggling to survive. They don't have the kind of a leadership and guidance. And we've got to do more to help people with that. And that's kind of the impetus behind this show, behind this speaker series that we wanted to start. So I'm going to give a little bit of my background here. I've got another hour, I think. So I'll try to wrap it up before 10 o'clock, but I'll start. Many people have not heard the story and know exactly why it is I do this. To tell you the truth, it changes all the time, but it came from my background we talked about. But as a kid, I was diehard to be, I was going to be Ozzie Smith's replacement. Anybody know Ozzie Smith? One of the best shortstop, if not, I think he's the best shortstop in the history of baseball. But he happens to play for the St. Louis Cardinals. And when I was a kid, 82, 85, 87 World Series, we won the 82. We gave away the 85. We lost the 87. But Ozzie Smith was the center of all of that, right? And by far, what I learned from Ozzie was he practiced all the time. That's what I did. And so a lot of people told me, my coaches said, Carter, you were on the path. You were the guy. I never forget Cliff Polite. We met with him. He and I grew up in the same neighborhood. And I said, Cliff, would you come talk to us about just winning the World Series with the White Sox? What year was that? 2005. The Cardinals won it again in 2006. So it's very momentous. You can remember this. I said, Cliff, talk to the team, man. We're doing our Spikes semi-pro baseball team. We're getting ranked in the country. I'm on a team. And I said, Cliff, what was so exciting about it? When you were in the neighborhood and we grew up? And he looked at me and goes, you were the guy who was going to make it to the big leagues. That was hard to swallow. But it made me think, God must have another mission for me, right? Because if I was supposed to be a big league player, Cliff was good enough, that was for sure. Had a 95-mile-an-hour fastball when he was 14. We finally figured out how to get that thing between the strike zone, right? God had a different mission for me, and I didn't know what it would be. Nobody would say, Carter, guess what? You're going to go through a coma. This is going to be a lot of fun. No, that's a horrible thing to go through, but it put me in a different perspective. And like you've heard from most of our speakers tonight, you have an option, right? And I talk about this all the time when I give little speeches around the Midwest, and sometimes depending on what part of the country I'm in, I'll give little talks, and I say, you have two options in life, right? To figure out how bad the situation was and focus on that, or to find out, hey, there's something I learned from it. It's going to redirect me, even if it was a bad situation, into a new perspective and get into a new path and learn from it. That's why I say I wasn't in a mission. I wasn't on a path to play professional baseball because God had something else for me. And I can spend the rest of my life. He's not like directly talking to me like it's in my brain, but I have to interpret that and realize, because that's not the way it works. And I had the choice to decide, is this going to be something I'm going to be a victim of for the rest of my life? And one day I woke up, my parents were like, what is wrong with Carter? I did stay in school. I pulled a ventilator out of my own throat. On the 7th day I rose. Really good, you can do it in 3. It took me 7. But I literally was like, why did this happen to me? I transferred to a college that knew I could play, that put me in a position. They were going to, coach told me, he says, I'll get you drafted. Good chance you're going to get drafted. All right, and then bam, it's wiped out, gone. And I literally spent about the next year and a half talking about that, thinking about that. Well, why did this happen to me? And one day I woke up, I said, well, nobody really cares too much about me and my problems. They have their own problems, right? Even my parents can't live my life for me. It's up to me, right? So I had to decide, from this day forward, I'm going to have to obviously do something different. The baseball, they don't draft you when you're 24, 25 years old. After the time I'd kind of recuperated, it took about 3 or 4 years, 5 years. There's still something wrong with me, right? We know, well, we all figured that out, right? But it totally changes your perspective. So it led to a series of events that really, I got about another hour and a half left. All right. So I ended up going off and said, all right, my parents, good fortune, had sent me to summer classes as a kid. I could play 40 games of baseball, but my mom said, that's cool. All the other kids can run around the neighborhood. You're going to computer classes. Backup plan, right? So I walk into Anheuser-Busch after an interview, and this is already, I was selling computers. I just graduated from St. Louis University, pretty good school, trying to figure out what I'm doing. Selling computers at Circuit City. So it's a living. And I decided I want to be a computer consultant. Oh. And I go in this interview at Anheuser-Busch, and they say, later my boss told me, he says, well, one guy fell asleep in the interview. The other guy told us he was going to use us to get to the networking team, and you had Outlook on your resume because it loaded with Microsoft Office. And that's about all I knew about it. And then I was hired to be the Outlook support person. Trial by fire, right? As I went through that path, I realized what I could do that was learned from baseball. And that was to take any aptitude, anything I want to get involved with, and become the best at it. Practice day and night. That's what got me to be the best shortstop, the best infielder, best hitter. Most of the other kids, I just didn't see them practice like I did. My dad would take me out to hit ground balls, fly balls. Neighbors would tell me, we used to just watch you make diving catches. I'm like, I know, what happened? But God had a different plan, right? And so fast forward, I said, guys, I've been answering phones for a while now and making sure everybody knows how to send their email and how to attach an attachment and to look somebody up in the address book. can I build these servers for you guys? And they looked at me and they said, you've never built a server. I said, yes, I have. In my parents' basement. Because I was enough informed to figure out that if I got a static IP address and got a dedicated DSL line, this was back in 1998, 99, then I could create a test, and they give you the software that you can actually try this. They want people to learn, so you get a trial version. It doesn't, actually, you can't run a business off of it, but it teaches you how to learn. And I built it in my parents' basement, and they said, okay, we'll give you a temporary, preclusive. We're going to let you try out the operations team. We'll see what happens. A year and a half later, I'm building the corporate email systems for Anheuser-Busch. All because I took the education, dedication to and figure this out and learn it on my own and teach myself. And that's the real message I have for people. In this planet, the way the world functions right now, there is literally nothing you can't learn on your own if you're dedicated and determined to do so. Education is critical. You need to learn the critical thinking skills. You need to learn how to learn, right? That's what college kind of teaches you. I went off, got a master's degree, and learned all about, my master's thesis was called The Internet. Like, what's that? Ooh, 1995 I started that, graduated in 98. What's this internet thing? Ah, lucky guess. I thought it might change the world, huh? Lucky guess. So here we are now, and InBev comes in and says, oh, everybody down here, we come in and we kind of cut costs. I'll give you guys privately the way that was talked about, not on camera, but they literally came in and they said 1,400 people fired in one day. They cut costs. That's the way they do things, right? And I have a master's degree. I'm like double fired, right? And so I said, well, now it's my opportunity to get out into the world and try something different. I got a little bit tired of sitting in a cubicle every day, right? There's different ways you can describe that. Again, I'll leave that for some of my commentary offline or some of my comedy I attempt to do. But there's a little cell, not a cell, a cubicle, that you sit in, and you've got to be there at 8 o'clock. You get 1 hour at lunch, and then you've got to be back. And then at the end of the day, you can spend a little private time, and you go back to sleep, and you get up the next day and do it all over again, 5 days a week. I'm like, this is not the life I want to be with the rest of my life. I said, I want to get back into the sales world or into the consulting world, which is where, if you're good at computers, there's probably a good opportunity for you out there, right? So I felt like, okay, what can I do? There's this new thing called Google. Have you guys heard of this yet? Catching on, right? And I thought, this buddy of mine, I got to know him literally like in the interview. And he's like, here's how you answer this question. What was the connection he and I had? He loved baseball. I love baseball. He loved the Giants. He still calls me every time he's going to the Cardinals game. I got to watch the Giants, and he wears the Giants jersey, and I probably get a picture with him carrying my trophy. Now we've got the updated version here. Does this look all right? There we go. Give it up for our Cardinals for what they do. And you want to talk about an organization that literally does not buy World Series like you've seen some organizations do, but they put a lot of time and energy. It might help with some people who are from whatever city that might be, but the Cardinals have adopted a similar strategy, which is get in there and develop, learn. They're known for having the best minor league system, farm system in sports, and so that kind of along those same lines. So I end up going in and I go, all right, let's see how much time I got left there. We go. I got my little 4:23. Okay, I've only got 4 hours left. All right. So was that minutes? That was minutes. So I end up deciding that I'm going to get into sales, and I learned quickly. I developed a sales analysis tool. The company took the tool from me and used it across the entire company. 500 reps, 55 cities around the world, and everybody goes, Boston, you on? LA, you on? Chicago, you on? New York, you on? Yeah. Everybody look at the screen. Here's our new analysis tool that we're going to use for explaining to our consumers the conversion rate and everything they should have to figure out how much their profit might be if they run our system and do this right. I was like, fast forward, getting into this television world. I've been on TV now, dozens of times being interviewed for the fun stuff I do as the Cardinal Cowboy, especially when I get calls from Pat McGonigal. He says, come on down from Channel 5. We're going to interview at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I might as well just not even go to bed. I'll just come on, let's head on down. I'll take a nap afterwards and then get down there for a home opener later. But I had a rep from ABC call me, and they said, hey, we'd like to talk to you about having a TV show on ABC here in St. Louis. And I'm like, about time, a Cardinal Cowboy. I've been doing this for a while. And they said, no, you figure out a show, and we'll put you on TV. I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. I called my buddy John, who's back there filming again. John's been working with me, John Pagano. Give it up for John. Thank you, John. We put together a show we had no idea what we were doing. We had 3 cameras. We had 3 timelines. We had to edit each separately. God would have it, a very large company that I'd done work for came back around and said, hey, how about we help finance this for you? And then I got to learn how to produce a TV show. And I did the editing, I did the production. I called my friends, one of my friends who's the videographer, a video expert, for a little guy, a little well-known speaker in the region, Shake Your Tail Feather, Country Grammar. Anybody know who I'm talking about? And he does a lot of his video stuff, and also I've been in some of these guys' videos, kind of fun stuff. But the TV show I felt was an opportunity to highlight leaders in the community, because I felt like that was what people needed to see more of. It's kind of interesting of what I went through, and I overcame a coma and all of that, but that's a little bit much for some people. If you can't relate to that, you were near death, that's a little deep. But I felt like there were so many other leaders in our community that they didn't go through a coma. They just went through life, which is dang near as difficult as a coma sometimes, right? We all know what that's like, because you're conscious for all of that, right? I was unconscious. I didn't have to deal with some of that stuff. But literally, you had these leaders that I felt needed to be highlighted. So then we did that. We've done that show. It's still airing on ABC. It's called the Cowboy and Judge Show. And now we have the Your Little Castle show, because I wanted to take it away from where my name's not in there, because I don't have to be the guy on set, on camera all the time. Believe me, it's fun being out front and making people smile, making them enjoy life a little bit. But sometimes you want to take a breath. And if this thing's going to really grow, I can't do it all, right? And I can do a lot of it, but I can't if I really want to get large. So now that's what we've really worked on. And so thanks to so many of our speakers that have been people that have been guests on my show, and many more of you. Michael Baran is a legend, and he's going to be our next speaker here in just a minute. But there's so much that we can now offer to help people. So if you guys know anybody that really deserves to have their message out there, that really is making a difference in our community, that's making an impact, Schneider Roofing and Remodeling was just on the show. I mean, you want to talk about, Charlie is a genius when it came to it. I've interviewed a number of roofing guys, and they all know their stuff, but holy cow, he does some stuff. It's like, and these are the kinds of people you get to talk about. Dave Smock, when you get into plumbing and what it takes to be a master plumber, I mean, how do you have these kinds of discussions without calling somebody and saying, hey man, spend a half hour telling me how your job works? They're not going to do that, right? It's $300 an hour. We'll come over and fix it. Thank you, I got to get to the next one. But they take their time and spend their time talking to us. And we really appreciate that. And that's what this is all really about, so we can help make this world a little bit better place and help the people that maybe didn't get that connection, didn't see the right resource, weren't in the right situation, or just weren't aware of what was going on. Hey, no excuses now. We're putting the information out there for you. It's up to you if you want to make a difference in your life. It's up to you if you want to impact this world. It's up to you if you want to have a fulfilled life. And I think that's what I live and breathe for. And it comes from my parents. And I think it's the best way to live your life, because you never have to look back saying, I wish I'd have done something different. I wish I would have helped somebody. I wish I would have made a difference in somebody's life. And that, to me, is what makes the world go round and gives you true fulfillment and happiness. And that's what this is all about. Thanks, you guys.